What is going on to all of my movie fans out there, and welcome back to my channel, MovieFiles. Today we are here to discuss the new Disney live action by the name of The Little Mermaid. Now, this film was directed by Rob Marshall and stars Halle Bailey. Now, when it comes to the whole Disney live action experience, for me, so far, it's been a little lukewarm, right? There are some that I really enjoyed and some that I have in my personal collection. And then there are others that I care to never talk about again, right? So the question is the new live-action Little Mermaid, does it fall in the good batch or the bad batch? We'll be discussing that and much more in today's spoiler-free review. But first, I want to talk to y'all in the comments. Let me know if you were excited to see this film. And of course, once you've seen it, let's talk about what worked, what didn't work. What were some of your favorite musical moments? What were some of your favorite performances? What were things that you hated about this film? Let's talk about that in the comments. But also, if you've seen a good amount of the Disney live-action films so far, how would you rank them? What are some of your favorites? Let's talk in the comments below. Now, if you all appreciate today's review, consider hitting the like button, sharing today's review, and of course, consider subscribing to the channel. With that being said, going into this review, I want to let y'all know first and foremost, as far as my fandom of this IP, I didn't go into this with a baggage, with my personal biases. I didn't go in with a checklist. They better do this. They better do it this way. No, I've seen the 1989 Little Mermaid. It's fine. I'm not the biggest fan. I'm really not the biggest Disney fan. Growing up as a kid, I was more Pixar, Nickelodeon, Digimon, Power Rangers. That was kind of my cup of tea, but I can respect why people love those films. So I say all that to say this. Today's review will be an unbiased opinion. I went into this with an open mind, looking to see what they're going to give me in this new adaptation from a live action perspective. So I won't be comparing this to what came before it. I appreciate it. I respect the 1989, and here we are talking about it. So there's that side of it. Then the other side I want to talk about was, with that said, I went into this a little bit scared, right? And not like, oh, I'm terrified. I'm talking about, I was like a little bit nervous going into this, right? Because number one, as I mentioned, not the biggest fan of Little Mermaid, not the biggest fan of Disney live action. And then also the marketing wasn't all that great. The trailers, the posters, the outside noise, I agree with a lot of it. And I'm not talking about the racists, the disgusting idiots talking about hashtag not my Ariel. No, I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about like, hey, Disney, you got bazillions of dollars. Why are you remaking all these movies? You just make something new and original with the same talent, but giving us something new. I understand that to a certain extent because the way I view remakes in the zeitgeist, Little Mermaid, for example, came out in the 1800s. It was based on a fairy tale. We fast forward 100 years. We're taking that story, adding a new flavor, but in an animated form, and people love it. Fast forward 35-something years later, new generation, new directors, new talent in front and behind the camera, different perspective to a new generation. So I always appreciate, yes, I know we can have new stories, but I feel like there are certain stories that are just timeless, and also, need I mind you, it's a different medium, right? We went from fairy tale animation to now live action. And by making a live action doesn't take away from what came before. This doesn't mean that you can never watch 1989 again. It's not erased from history. It's just another experience for different people to watch. And sometimes the live actions have been not the greatest. It's made people go back and maybe revisit the original and see it for the first time and appreciate it from a different perspective. So I understand the sentiment of new stories, new movies, stop making remakes, but I understand the other side of the coin. So that's the mind that I was going in before walking to the theater. But as I walked to the theater, as I sat down, all that stuff went out the window, and here we are talking about the film. And I want to start off by talking about the pros and talking about the music, because to me, music is so important for so many different reasons, but in the theatrical experience and in the movie-going experience, a good soundtrack and a good score goes a long way with me. And we know Disney and musicals are synonymous to each other as far as it's timeless. It makes you remember certain scenes. When you think of a song, you think of the scene. When you think of the scene, you think of the song, so on and so forth. So when it comes to this film, the musical cues really work for me, right? There are just things that I loved about the music in this. And of course, it's coming from the original, but hearing the new renditions of it and hearing the new performers giving us these songs, I think of Under the Sea. It's just certain songs like that are just joyful and fun, and I really enjoyed the energy coming from that and the vibes. And also you have, and we're going to talk about Halle, who was just fantastic, but thinking of her as Ariel singing Part of the World was just so beautiful to see within the narrative. And then there's songs that I just have fun with, right? So there are some songs that we'll talk about later that I wasn't the biggest fan of, but generally speaking, I liked the score. I had a good time with the musical aspect. So I would say those things work for me personally. Now, translating that to the direction, the story, and the themes, you have Rob Marshall, who's worked with Disney, 4 or 5 times now. He's remade some other Disney classics, and I think he's done a good job in that. And in this film, I thought he did a solid job, right? The story is the story. It's fish out of water, someone that's wanting to experiencing new things, different cultures, different people. She falls in love while doing so. So he's stuck to the fundamental things about the story, but the things that I think that he did a good job of bringing back up and adding some new elements to it is, number one, just the thing that I always believe in is never judging a book by its cover, right? And then there's the other side of that, which is you might have experienced something that forever changed your life for the bad. It's a tragic experience, a traumatic experience, and you always base that experience and you use that as a way to view things moving forward, which I don't recommend doing. You can have that moment, but you learn from that, you try to grow from that experience, and you don't allow that to shape your feelings on meeting new people and experiences. And number one, not instilling that on a younger generation, as we have with King Triton, who had something tragic happen to his wife and to the mother of Ariel, and telling her that one experience, I want to keep you away from that. So never interact with a human because they're going to kill you. They're bad, this, that, and the other. So I love that the film focuses on not allowing your experience to shape you, right? So I like that narrative, as well as self-discovery, coming of age. All those themes really worked for me in this new telling. Again, it's taken a lot from what came before it, but then just bringing it to a new generation with a couple wrinkles, a couple things tweaked within that narrative. So that was something I enjoyed. But talking about the performances here, and I want to talk about some characters that I liked and then transitioning to characters that I love. Characters I like, I think of Prince Eric. I thought that the actor that played the role did a good job, but I really enjoyed his chemistry with Halle in this film. I thought that they seemed to have some really good off-screen chemistry, and that translated on to the screen. So I enjoyed Prince Eric. I thought he was a fine character. I also think of Scuttle, who was voiced by Awkwafina. That's a character that I think as the film went on, I liked what they brought to the role. Of course, Scuttle's the kind of dumb-witted bird that says dumb things, doesn't seem to be paying attention. But as the character works in the film, and I think it works as the audience, you grow to like the character. So I did like Scuttle. And then Flounder, voiced by Jacob Tremblay. I wish there was more from Flounder, if I'm being honest with you all. I don't remember how much Flounder was in the original, but in this one, I wanted more because it's just a character that I enjoyed the back and forth and the chemistry that character had and the dynamic that it added to Ariel's story. So I wish there was more Flounder, but again, a character that I liked, limited screen time, but I liked the screen time that they had when they were on screen. But now transitioning into some standout characters, right? First, I want to talk about the villain of the film, and that is played by Melissa McCarthy, who plays Ursula. I really enjoyed her being the character Ursula. She was menacing. She was very manipulative. She has her moment to shine. I really enjoyed her portrayal, so I had fun with her. Shout out to Melissa McCarthy. Then I'm talking about the Sebastian of it all, a character that when people saw the teaser trailers, saw the trailer, the posters, people hated the look, right? And I'm going to just say this, and this kind of ties into not only the character, but the visual effects of this film. I really enjoy Sebastian. It's one of those situations where, like art, if you guys have ever been to an art show, you might come across a piece of art and you say, man, that does not look good. But then you sit there and you look at it, and you look at it more and you start to analyze it, and as time goes by, you come to appreciate it. And that's the same thing that I want to say about Sebastian. I'm not saying that the visual effects were perfect. It looks a little weird, a little off, but the personality comes out of the character, and that's what I want to talk about with Sebastian, voiced by David Diggs, who I'm a big fan of, and he just does a really good job of bringing the character to life and embodying Sebastian, a character that, from what I remember from the animated, but again, focusing on this film, a character that's not like the biggest Ariel fan. She's always breaking the rules and not listening to her father, and he has to chase her around, so you kind of understand his perspective. But as their relationship develops, as her story develops, Sebastian is someone that really stood out to me, and I really enjoyed musical performance, the jokes, the character moments that he has with Ariel. A very, again, visually speaking, a little bit off, but you come to really, at least I did, I come to really love Sebastian. It was definitely a character that stood out to me, and also to the visual aspects, the visual effects of the film, very like Sebastian. When you're underwater and you're seeing all the visuals, it took me a while to kind of get used to it. But again, the more time we spent underwater, the visuals, it wasn't all the way perfect. Like, it's not Avatar, Way of Water, or even Aquaman levels like visual effects, which again is kind of baffling because it is Disney. So, but I came to appreciate the colors and just kind of the environments that we're in. So again, generally speaking of the visual effects, they were fine to me, right? I enjoyed it for what it was. So all that being said, it's time to spend about 10 to 15 minutes, not joking, but it's time to spend a good amount of this review. I want to talk about Halle Bailey. Now, prior to this film, I had known about her and her sister make music, her and Chloe Bailey, and every time I saw, whether it was a music video or interviews, I just really enjoy their energy. I just feel like they have a good head on their shoulders. They come from a good home. And I really, and specifically going to Halle, she just has this kind of presence to her that I really just come to appreciate. So when I heard she was going to be in a role and I heard all the negative comments, the racist comments, the stupid comments, hashtag not my area, all this stuff just kind of upset me because this seems to be such a career changer for her. And the way she handled that, and going into leading up into this film, I'm talking about press junkets, interviews. I feel like a proud big brother of some sorts, right? I just feel so happy for her, the way she's carrying herself and the way she's embodying what it means to be a princess, right? And to be a beacon of hope and a hero to a lot of boys, but also specifically little girls of the world. She has been a class act, and I just want to say that I'm rooting for her and protect her at all costs. But now, talking about the performance, Halle Bailey as Ariel was born to play this character. I don't like to use the word perfect a lot because there are imperfections in perfection, right? But I literally think that when it comes to her in this role, she was born to play it. She was perfect in the role. From a performance standpoint, when she plays Ariel, again, someone that's been kind of sheltered, been kind of closed off to different experiences. And when you see those emotions, when you see the excitement, the curiosity of trying to go to the surface world, interacting with Prince Eric, interacting with her friends, and just experiencing new things in life, the way she portrays that, the fish out of water, literally, is just this performance. You just are joyful, you're happy, you're delighted, you just want to go on every adventure with this character because Halle just brings that out of the character. There's that side of it. And then, this isn't a spoiler, if you're familiar with the story, you know that there's a chunk of the movie where the character doesn't speak. It doesn't, and you want to hear her speak, and you want to hear her sing, particularly when we'll talk about that here in a second, but she doesn't have her voice. And even though she doesn't have her voice, her performance speaks for her. It's the way she emotes, it's the way she looks, it's the way she smiles, and it's just electric. It's mesmerizing. So from a performance standpoint, kudos to you, Halle. I'm so proud of you. Again, I never met you. Hope to meet you one day. You did a fantastic job. Give her flowers, much deserved. But then there's the other performance, which is the singing aspect. Moments in which we see this young lady just give you everything, like from her diaphragm on, and just from A Perfect World to her harmonies, her humming, her sing. I mean, it is just absolutely breathtaking. Halle Bailey brought everything in this role. And again, the emotions, I wasn't that emotionally connected to the story. Like, I didn't get like teary-eyed or like super sad when something dramatic would happen. And that, I'll talk about that more in my criticisms. But her on the screen, I got more emotion just seeing her on the screen, giving all of herself into this role. So again, I can't speak highly enough about Halle Bailey. Fantastic job. So those are all my main pros. I want to get into my criticisms because the film is not perfect. I want to get some of my nitpicks out of the way. First off, it took me, and this might be a me thing, let me know in the comments if you all felt the same, but the first 15-20 minutes, I wouldn't say it was bad, but it didn't have a rhythm. It felt very generic, kind of paint by numbers, and it was just very surface level for me. It finally found this rhythm. Once we get into the story, once we get Ariel and Prince Eric and all that stuff gets to going, that's when the film kind of, like the 30-minute mark is where it kind of took off, and I was really locked in at that point. But the first, like I said, 20-25 minutes, I wasn't as engaged with the narrative. That being said, now getting to some of my true criticisms, I want to talk about a great actor who plays King Triton, and that is Javier Bardem. Great actor. But my goodness, he was so flat to me in this film. Like, I'm going to get into it. Let's break it down. So King Triton has, again, I mentioned he has a tragedy. He doesn't want his kids to be affected by that, so he keeps them kind of locked into his world where he can control everything. I get that narrative, but I wish there was more depth and I wish there was more complexity to the character. And I know Javier can pull that off, but it was just very flat what they gave him from a performance standpoint, but also what he was given. And again, not comparing it to the 1989, but I'm just going to say what I remember from that version of King Triton. Number one, I say he's a king, right? So the king in this movie, I don't know what he's the ruler of, because we have him and then we have Sebastian, we have Ariel and her sisters, and that's about it. Where is the sea? Where are the creatures and the sea monsters and the people and the mermaids? There are some other mermaids in this film, but I'm like, where are all the world building, right? I wanted more world building. But let me get back to King Triton and the depth and the complexity. There's something that tragic happens to him, and I wish the film would have, talk about taking creative liberties, I wish they would have explored that more, because it's very paint by numbers. Again, something bad happened, I don't want that to happen again, and it's just that. Let's explore that a little bit more. So I wish it was more to King Triton. I wish it was more world building, but I wish it was more depth, because I know Javier is capable of giving you complexity, but I feel like the film held that character back, but also I feel like I said the performance wasn't that great. So there's that, and also I briefly touched on it, but the sisters. There are so many other great actors and just beautiful designs, and again, I know we weren't going to get backstories on all those characters, but I wish they were more involved in the main narrative, because they're only in like 2 or 3 scenes, and I wish they were just more involved, and especially seeing the relationship between Ariel and her sisters. I wish that was explored a little bit more in this narrative. Everything about the story of Little Mermaid, and this goes back to just not me being a fan, and some of y'all might completely disagree with me, but I wish there was just more of the focus on her being more interested in the world and exploring the world. Now, the film focuses on that, but again, it brings in the whole love story of it all, and it just, to me, I wish there was just more of a focus on her exploring other elements of the world, more so than like focusing on the love story and her giving her voice to someone she only met one time, only spent like a half a day together. So I just wish that the film, and again, I know this is based on what they're doing with A9, but I wish that they would have taken more liberties of fleshing that out more, giving her more of like, yes, I want to explore the world, and I happen to fall in love, because you can do 2 of the same. You can fall in love and explore the world. There's no issues with that. I just wish that the whole exploring the world was more the focal point, and then she happened to fall in love, and within that love, there was more fleshing out of them having more time together versus sending them. I get first love, fall in love, love at first sight, but I just wish that that was expanded upon a little bit more for my personal taste. And then all these scenes, non-Ariel scenes, and I'm talking about scenes with Prince Eric by himself, scenes with Scuttle and Flounder, and scenes with Triton, those scenes to me just lacked the depth that we were getting from that main character. So whenever there was non-Ariel scenes, those scenes to me didn't match the same intensity, same gravitas when we had that main character in those scenes. And then last thing I want to mention, it's a little long in the tooth. I didn't think it needed to be 2 hours to tell this story. Felt like we could have just kept it to about an hour and a half with this narrative. To get where we got to in the film, they could have kept it at that runtime. It's like I said, take out about 15, 20 minutes of this narrative. Last thing I mentioned, I talked about the music and how I enjoyed it, but there are some new additions to this, and even though I'm not a Disney purist or a Little Mermaid purist, I remember the songs that were from the original, and I remember what I remember reading going into this about the new songs. So I kept an eye on, like, okay, let's see where the new songs stand. There's 3 new original songs. One of them was cool, and it's when Ariel and Eric are kind of doing their thing and hanging out, and she's exploring his country and his people. That song was fine. Then there's an Eric solo song that I didn't really care for, if I'm being honest. It was just, the momentum kind of slowed down for me. And then there's a Scuttle song, which it has a beat to it. It has a vibe to it. I'm like, oh, okay, kind of, Caribbean type of beats going on. But then the lyrics came out, and I'm like, oh, boy, the switch up from like, okay, to like, oh, no. It might grow on me. Like the characters did, it might grow on me, but I didn't really like that song in particular. So that's my last main criticism. So my pros, my cons. We're going to get into my score and my overall thoughts, but I want to thank y'all for clicking on this video, number one, and I also want to thank you for sticking on to this point in the review. If you all are having a good time and appreciate today's commentary, just a reminder to hit the thumbs up, share today's review, and of course, consider subscribing to the channel. With all that being said, overall, The Little Mermaid to me is by far one of the best live actions that we've had thus far, and when it comes to Halle Bailey in the role, she was born to be a Disney princess. I really enjoyed some of the supporting characters, like I mentioned mentioned earlier, with an Ursula, with a Sebastian, wanted more from Flounder, and I wish that King Triton just was a little bit more depth and a little bit more complexity. The visual effects for the most part were solid. The songs really stood out to me. It's flaws, a little bit long in the tooth, but overall, I am happy that Halle Bailey gets her time to shine. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and she took full advantage of it. So with that being said, I'm going to give the 2023 live-action Disney Little Mermaid a solid 3.5 out of 5 from me. So that's my thoughts. Now it's y'all time to talk in the comments, y'all. Let me know what were some things you agree with in my review. What were some things you disagree with? What were your personal thoughts on the film? Pros, cons, favorite moments, favorite performance, favorite song. Let's have those discussions in the comments below. So thank you again for watching today's review. I hope you all had a good time, because I had a good time expressing my thoughts with you all today. So before we leave today's video, just again a reminder to hit the like button, share the video, leave your thoughts in the comments. Consider subscribing to this channel where we do movie reviews, live streams, short form, long form. We have a good time, so come and join the fam. I appreciate y'all. Hope you're staying safe. As you can see on the screen now, consider subscribing. Check out some of my other reviews that I've done so far from this year. Check out my most recent review, and we'll catch you all on the next video.